Well, welcome to this Selling Travel TV video presentation. Joining us today is Graeme, co-owner and founder of independent travel agency Westoe Travel, also a recent co-founder of the agent support group Target. Hi Graeme, how are you today?
Hi, fine, good to see you. Long time no see.
It certainly is, way too long, but thanks for joining us. Let's start with taking you back to 1989 when you moved from working in the insurance industry to setting up your own travel agency on Westoe Road, South Shields. How did that come about?
We knew some people that had travel agencies. They seemed to be okay, and news agencies. And what we did, we actually bought a news agent that there was a booking office for Blue Line coaches to London. So basically the Blue Line coach used to depart from outside the shop to London. So we used to sell the coach tickets for the bus, which left 4 times a day. And then when people came to get on the bus, they would come in, they would buy pop, sweets, newspapers. And at that time, they used to show videos on the bus. So the bus drivers used to rent the videos, the latest new releases from us, and show them on the bus. So that's where it started. And then we expanded at the back to news agents from that to cater for people who wanted hotels when they got to London and things like that. And then we had people wanting to go to other cities other than London. So we started doing sort of National Express, so we could go Manchester, Edinburgh, places like that. And because we had a big college, Marine College, beside us as well. And then we started doing hotels. So we started using Super Break and Golden Rail, Rainbow at the time, and doing that. And then from there it went on to sort of UK coach holidays, the sort of the sharings type holidays. And it grew quite big. And we realised that people were booking like their UK break with us, but they weren't booking the main holiday. So we then went through all the approvals and set up as the full travel agency. But again, it was still at the back of the news agents. And what we used to do was we had our own printer. We used to print our own newsletter, which I used to call Westoe Telegraph, which we still produce. And I used to stick it coming on Sunday morning, and when you got the news of the world and all the Sunday papers, I used to put the A4 newsletter inside all of the papers, so we're getting the free advertising. My dad would work in the shop at night time and sort of hand some out to people and always have a list of inquiries for us for the next day. So we did that right the way through until 2005, when one of the shops nearby became vacant, and we moved the travel into there, and we put the news agency up for sale.
So you've been a family-run business from the start, and you still are. Is that right?
Yeah. So when we had the business, my mum and dad, they used to come and work in the evenings. They just retired from their main jobs, and so they used to come work for us in the evenings in the shops and do Sundays so we could get a day off. And then my son and daughter, when they were sort of about 12, 13, once they wanted pocket money, they had to earn it. So they used to come in the shop and work. And we were selling travel from the age of 12, 13 in school holidays, weekends, and right away through university. And Gillian's still with us now. I mean, she went through university, qualified as a solicitor, and then decided she'd rather work in travel.
Looking back over the last 31 years, what would you say have been your biggest successes? Just the range of holidays you're now offering, or what would you point to?
I think we've always, for overseas holidays, we've always really pushed the holidays that we would go on, that Joan and I would go on, and that we would want to go on ourselves. So things like Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, that we've really pushed, which was something that other people at the time didn't really cater for. And certainly come back 15, 20 years, we had direct flights from Newcastle to Toronto, which was really, really cheap in the days of Globespan. And that sort of got people into the idea of going to Canada. And once they'd been to Toronto, Niagara Falls, and they want to go to the West Coast and do the Rockies. So that was a great start, and we certainly miss having that link with Canada, from the direct link with Canada from Newcastle now.
Sure. And am I right in thinking that you're still one of the biggest retail travel agents in the UK selling UK holidays and breaks?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've never gone away from that, because that was what people knew us for originally. And as well as obviously being a good source of income, it's also a good way of getting new customers. So we find that, I mean, we still sell day trips by coach as well. And we've got customers who come with their parents, and the first thing they've booked with us was a day trip to Flamingo Land or Alton Towers. And then when it's come to them booking their own trip, they've booked maybe a stag weekend in Leeds or York, or a DFDS mini cruise across to Amsterdam. And then as they get older, then they're coming back and they're booking, to go to Spain, and then when they have families, it's booking going to Florida. But it all goes back to that first day trip to Alton Towers or Flamingo Land.
Okay. I mean, a thriving, successful business like yours, try and sum up how difficult the last 16 months has been for you.
It's just been hard to take in, because January and February last year were our best 2 months trading ever. And then just to have to sit and give all that money back, including our commission, is just horrendous. And with obviously the government not comprehending what that meant, and it's just the hours and hours that was spent refunding money is just been horrendous. I mean, we've got lots of goodwill from people, because we got the refunds for them as quick as we could, and they're all promising to book with us when they can, but that doesn't pay the bills at the moment.
I was going to ask you, I mean, over those years, you've obviously built up some loyal customers. Have they understood the situation in terms of what you're going through a travel agency? Have you had to have a lot of very difficult conversations with clients?
I don't think customers do, and I think it's very difficult for people in travel to have that conversation with customers, because you don't want to say to customers, look, we've had no income for 16 months, we've had all these bills to pay, and put this seeds in the customer's mind that there's a financial issue there. You've got to give them that confidence that they still want to book with you. So on one hand, you're trying to have that conversation with trade bodies and the government that we need the financial support. We've got to make sure that you don't make sure the customers don't think that there's any financial issue with any of the travel companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you're known as, you and Joan, as Australia and Canada specialists. How have you managed to keep up to date with the latest developments in these destinations over the last 16 months or so?
I think it's actually hasn't been a problem to keep up to date. I mean, the rendezvous went ahead as normal for Canada, and there's still been online communications and things. So we're still totally up to date with that. And the same with Australia. The Australian Tourism Australia has been really good. We've had ATE, we've had Australian Marketplace, and we've had various other events. I mean, they're doing weekly webinars. It's just frustrating that we haven't got a start date. So when customers are asking about Australia, we don't know. We've got some nice itineraries out there with customers, but they're just waiting for a start date as to when they can book it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like any time soon, does it, with Australia?
Well, no. I think the end of next year looks to be the earliest at the moment.
Moving on, let's talk about Target. As I mentioned, you're one of the co-founders. Tell me about the organisation, what it is, your activities, aims, and the goals you have.
I think one of the things, I mean, certainly I have a frustration that the travel industry does seem to have too many bodies. And when you look at UK hospitality, they've got Kate Nichols there, and she just makes the decisions and gets on with things, and she's been really effective. Travel seems to have so many different strands to it, and they don't seem to be all able to agree. What we found as a frustration was the fact that when travel was being talked about, it was mainly aviation, and that people like ABTA had to speak on behalf of their tour operator members as well as their travel agent members, and it was very difficult for them to do so. And there's so many different bodies that have travel agent members, which I thought would be a good idea to get all travel agents together. So it didn't matter whether they were home workers, shop workers, whether they employed for somebody or not. End of the day, we've all got the same challenges and the same problems. So that was the aim, to get us all together. And we felt that certainly with the home workers and a lot of the self-employed people who've been working from home, they had these concerns, and they obviously were getting very depressed about the challenges we're facing, and thought that it was them in isolation were facing these challenges. And by bringing everybody together, they've all been able to see that we're all facing exactly the same problems, and it doesn't matter whether somebody works from home, from a shop or not, that we're all got the same challenge. And I think that's given confidence to a lot of people, knowing that they're not alone. But I think it's also, what we've done is we don't want sort of Jill Waite and myself to be sort of shouting or doing anything promoting it. We wanted to empower all of the travel agents, to encourage them to engage with their MPs and their local media. And I think what we've seen over the last few weeks is great. There's over 100 of the target members have managed to have meetings with their MPs, which they hadn't had previously, and communicate with the local media. And the number of agents that we've seen appear on television and in newspapers, both locally and nationally, has been fantastic. And I think rather than having a national figure like some of the trade bodies have, we've been able to have somebody local with a local accent appearing on regional TV, and people can associate more with that. I know we had in the North East, we had Jean Lally from Travel Bureau and Nick Coulthard from Gazelle Travel appear on our local TV, and our customers could relate to them and say, oh, before it was all London, but now we can see it affects people in the North East as well, and the support was there. So, and I think some of the agents in the past hadn't bothered to write to their MP because they didn't think it was worthwhile. But when they've seen other members getting responses and getting encouragement, it's encouraged more and more of them to do that. And we've sort of tried to provide some background to that and backup support. So we did a 16-page press pack that we made available to all the members to give to their MPs or their local press, with stories that members had provided of their personal challenges and what we actually were looking for. So we've given that support to them to do it, but it's great to see some of the people who wouldn't speak up before now going out and being happy to do television interviews and things. And, you know, that's the real benefit we found.
One issue you've been quite vocal on this week is reports of a bookings boom. You've tried to dampen that a little bit, presumably because that might damage future sort of financial offerings from the government. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's mainly tour operators that have been trying to be clever and quote 500% and 1,000% increases on last month or on the same month last year. And it means they're doing 5 bookings instead of 3 bookings or whatever. And, you know, when we're trying to argue with government that we need financial support, government are thinking, well, we've reopened some destinations, your sales are up 500%, so everything's back to normal, so you don't need any more help. And it's just stabbing us all in the back by these companies doing it, and it's got to stop.
Okay. Future travel agents, do you think the pandemic has changed the way that you and other agents are going to operate in the future? And do you think you're now more essential than you've ever been?
Yes, and I think that more and more people are going to come back to travel agents to get that advice, because there's just so many restrictions with things like, even with Brexit, with the validity of passports changed, which has been sort of forgotten about in all of this, and with the ever-changing visa requirements and testing requirements for different destinations, I don't think it's something that people can do themselves anymore. I think in the past people have maybe gone to the same Spanish destination every year and been quite happy to book it themselves. But I think even something like that now, that they need support. And I think we're now finding that from the number of people that are coming in who haven't used a travel agent before, asking for advice.
All right. Changing tack, you and your wife Joan recently celebrated your 40th wedding anniversary on July the 4th. So congratulations firstly on that.
We were very young. We were very young when I got married.
Hope you had fireworks planned for July the 4th.
We did have. We did plan to be to be in America for it. But obviously that didn't happen. So we had a weekend in Yorkshire.
Okay. What's the secret of a long marriage that also involves a long business partnership? Any tips?
I think it's just we just get on, and we've got the same interests. You know, and that love's been there since the start. So, you know, you can finish each other's sentences, but I mean, for 32 years we've been together 24 hours a day. So,
wow. Recipe for success, obviously.
Yeah.
You and I first met on a fan trip to South Africa, I think, and we've been to Canada on a learn to ski trip. We've shared beers in Australia at the country's trade show. And those trips were just part of what we did. Do you think they're going to come back either in the same way or in a different sort of format in the future?
I hope they do, because I think it's really important for us to have that experience in order to be able to sell a destination. And I think it would be a great shame if they didn't. I mean, some of those opportunities that we had to go to places that we wouldn't otherwise have gone to. I know we've always taken the opportunity here for any of us, if a farm trip's offered, to accept, and always see a boost in sales when people come back for those destinations, for what they've learned. You know, we in recent years, as a group of us, Premier Australian specialists, we've put our own farm trip together for Australia, and we've done that for a few years as well. And again, every time we go, we try and go to somewhere we haven't been to before, and it's reflected in the sales when you come back. But if those sort of farm trips weren't to happen in the future, then I think new people coming in the industry just wouldn't have the experience that those of us who are a bit older have.
Sure. What have been some of your favourite trips over the years? And I know you've had many, but if I asked you for some of maybe your top 3 memories or experiences from your trips, what? Of
holidays as well, just farm trips, holidays.
Fan trips, educationals.
We've certainly, Canada is always one of the top destinations. Our favourites always the Rockies, Jasper, Banff, Lake Louise, and I would live there if I got the opportunity. But I did the trip to the Galapagos, which is just something that is so special, because when you go there, I mean, I bought a new lens for my camera before I went, and I got this great big long extension. It was cost a fortune to try and get some close-ups of the animals. And then when we got there, found that because the animals are so tame that they don't run away and you don't need a long lens, because they would come up to you and you can get such close-ups of them. But to see some of the animals there, and we actually saw Lonesome George just before, like, I was there 3 weeks before he died, and things like that. And it's somewhere that everybody needs to go.
This is a tortoise, isn't it? Lonesome George.
Yeah. And he's the last of his species. So I mean that was pretty fantastic. And then I think probably going to South Africa as well with yourselves. Some of the things we did there, and again, some of the experiences that we got. Because I can remember when we were at Madikwe, we'd done a hotel inspection, and at the hotel they had a picture of the pool they had. And when the hotel was built, they built this swimming pool, and every night the swimming pool, or every morning the swimming pool was empty. And they got the builders back in and said there must be a leak, and there wasn't a leak. And they put a camera in, and every night the elephant herd was coming and drinking the water out of the pool and emptying the pool, and he had a photograph of that. And then on the way back from that inspection, the guide got a message to say that there'd been 2 young lions that killed a warthog, and we went there and we saw that, which has affected some people in different ways. So some people obviously thought it's nature and it's really good to see, whereas some of the other people that saw it obviously were on the warthog side. And got upset by it. So you don't know how you're going to be affected till you actually to say that. So I mean, there's some great experiences there. And obviously, when I went to the school where you'd arranged for people to take pens and things to the school, and we went to that school and gave the children like 2 or 3 pens each, and they were so pleased and happy to get something as simple as that. And yet we saw the sort of accommodation that they were living in, and yet their shirts were spotlessly white. They're walking, miles to school, but there was the support from the family to make sure they got the education was really important, and that made a big impression as well.
As you say, priceless memories that, some of which you can pass on to clients in a way that reading a book or watching a film could never replace.
Yeah.
And what about places that you haven't been to that are top of you and Joan's list that you'd like to see?
If the places we want to go to, certainly we've always tried to get to as many places as we can rather than sort of leave them for later years. But I certainly wanted to go to Peru, which Joan has been to, so I want to go there. And also I've been to Angkor Wat and Joan hasn't, and so that's another place that she wants to go to, so I want to go back to. So I think they're the 2 main places we want to go to again.
Okay. Well, thanks, Graeme. Thanks for joining us today. And I know it's tough right now, but here's to another 31 years in business for you, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, viewers and readers, for watching this Selling Travel video. You can find more destination information and videos at www.sellingtravel.co.uk. Cheers.